Comment below what you think the worst parts about living in Surrey are.
Let's see what the commenters think the worst part of living in Surrey is. Surrey is the new Delhi. You'd be walking down the street in Delhi, for example, Scott Road, and you'll think you're in India. Hordes of Indians walking on both sides of the street. Hordes! Before these people, at least he is for now still referring to them as people. Hordes. But people were allowed to invade. Okay. Before these people were allowed to invade the country, you could barely see a few people of all races combined walking either side of the street, but now you see dozens and dozens of these people, Indians, thank you for clarifying, walking on the street. And they're not all Indians. They're broadly South Asian, but whatever. Not good. Not good. This is done on purpose by the government. This is exactly what ordered. This will result in the destruction of the labor market. Oh, right. We're in Cranktown. Got it. 25 likes. Sure. So, spewing racism, sure. But why? Again, this is, what never comes up with conservatives and bigots. So, the World Economic Forum, on purpose, ordered hordes of Indians to be walking on both sides of the street, and it will result in destruction of labor. Why? Why would they do that? Why would they want to do that? Oh, we don't deal with that. Oh, there's a reply. Should this be good? Yep. The Canadian way of the past was having a family home, a big yard, being white, and tons of space to socialize without overcrowding. Again, the world changes. I know this is a difficult reality to hear and to have to grapple with, but change happens. We have a perpetually growing human population, which could be a problem that the different conversation to be having, which means that places that are less crowded will become more crowded because there are more people. I know it's a difficult concept. The Canadian way of the past was having a family home, a big yard on stolen land. Yeah, ask how many British people expect a family home, a big yard, and tons of space to socialize without overcrowding in the place where they are indigenous and didn't come to a place that was a wide open continent of territory to be stolen from people who were there. They, who is they, brought in people who don't understand personal space, Canadian matters, etc. And they brought in so many to put a dent in the beauty of a once great Western country. Own nothing, be happy. So this is the purpose of conservative propaganda, okay? This person needs to become class conscious because he is saying that the own nothing, be happy mentality is why they are putting hordes of Indians on both sides of the street, when in reality it is the global capitalists who have a psychopathic hoarders of wealth who need more for themselves no matter how much they have, which means you have to have less. And he's not mad at that. He's mad at all the Indians that they're putting here for reasons. Again, nowhere in here does it say, or any attempt to mention or speculate even about why they would be wanting to do this. And I don't know if you know this, but Canada is really big, like really, really big. In fact, let me, can I find it easily? No. Oh, yeah. Here, let's do this. Canada, really? Yeah. Canada is really big, really, really big. We have a lot of land. I don't know if you know this. Yeah, so I don't know my point. I'm getting tired. If you want your house and your yard and your people only walking on one side of the street and you're no race mixing, there are still places for you in Canada. I suggest Hope, ironically. I suggest Alberta, outside of Calgary. In fact, I suggest anywhere in the world outside of major urban center. You see, the problem is where you're living used to be outside the major urban center, and now that urban center is growing and is encompassing a wider and wider radius, and you don't like living with other people. You don't like living in the city. The city has come to your door, and that sucks. There's plenty of places you can go. But no, you'd rather stay and just complain that hordes of Indians are walking on both sides of the street with no understanding of personal space. As far as healthcare goes, until you control migration, it won't meet the needs. Okay. I mean, a lot of it is people being priced out of Vancouver and moving to the suburbs, but sure. Forget about Surrey. The whole country is ruined by these international students. The whole country ruined by these international students, temporary workers, illegal refugees, and asylum seekers. As a result, present and future generations of Canadians are going to suffer. Yes, better that all these other people suffer more. International students, where they come here and pay a shitload of money to be here. Temporary workers who come in and do the jobs that you don't want to, or we don't have people who can do it. Illegal refugees, which isn't a thing because they're just asylum seekers. So again, just rampant bigotry. It's gross. So gross. 130 likes. And this is why we're doomed, because this is just a pig pen with hundreds of hogs just squealing at each other. It's terrible that people who are trying to bring their spouse or family sponsorship can't get results for up to 3 to 4 years, but students and refugees are skipping and jumping inside. I don't know how many refugees are skipping. I'm just going to say that I bet if you had to be where they are in the situation they're coming from, you would do anything to get away from it as well. These people are better than you. They're hardier than you. They're stronger constitutions than you. They are better for the country than you because they have it in them to move around the world, not knowing what they're going to happen, knowing they're going to have to deal with hogs like you because they work hard and have belief in themselves. They could just stay home and bitch and moan about the challenges they're facing, but no, they hop, skip, and jump. Families have homes waiting for them to live in, while students and refugees don't. Nothing makes sense. Families have homes waiting for them to live in? I don't know what that means. Yes. Spouses or family sponsorships can't get results for 3 or 4 years. So elsewhere, there will be somebody saying that the big problem is that these immigrants then bring in their parents who aren't productive and don't speak the language, while this other hog is complaining that it takes too long to do exactly that thing. Interesting. Why would there need to be any sort of consistency or logical consistency when hogs are talking? Yes, students who leave when they're done studying and just put money into the system while they're here, we don't want that. And refugees, some of the most industrious, brave people who could come here, we don't want them either. So we just want more hogs like this person. Thank you for taking yet another relevant opportunity to rant. I'm going to presume this person is in the right place. It sounds like they're, yeah. Immigration is entirely relevant to the topic of life in Surrey, the fertility rate of Canadian-born women. I bet he doesn't mean Indians of people, Canadian-born people of Indian descent. I'm gonna bet he's thinking about white women when he says that. It's below replacement levels. Oh, so there might be some sort of great replacement happening, right? I mean, the population would drop without some immigration. Unfortunately, the federal government rejects the idea of population stability in favor of mass immigration. What is the idea of population stability? Does that mean government decide breeding mares? I don't understand. Does that mean forced pregnancies? Does that mean greater financial supports to encourage people to feel like they can afford to have children? No, population stability. I don't know what that person is saying, but I bet they're thinking white people when they say that. They are temporary. Again, I don't know. Too many. What is that? Oh, actually, how do I bookmark? I'm not used to this. Oh, there we go. True size. My porn name. Yeah, the new third world, Clyde says. Yeah, I'm sure that is well researched and fair and balanced. TM. Right, I was gonna look at what this is. Man wearing turban. Okay. Too many man wearing turban make it less affordable for a Canadian to start a family. We can't live 9 people in one house and still breed. It's an interesting way to characterize having children. Or is he saying that these dirty immigrants, they can live 9 people in one house and still breed like animals, but we good white people can't do that? Is that what he's saying? So again, this is an instance where we need a blooming of class consciousness, because if only this person and the hogs like him could understand that it is not man wearing turban who is responsible for his life being unaffordable. It is the global capitalist class who has the psychopathic need to accumulate more and more hoarded wealth at the expense of everyone else, which means that they have to have more, so you have to have less. But instead, he buys into the propaganda that it is man wearing turban who somehow makes it unaffordable for him to start a family. This is somebody whose problem is really probably rude in not being able to find a woman who wants to have to breed with him, but it's only speculation at this point. I grew up in Surrey and Aldergrove. I come back to visit and would never live there again. I've lived in northern BC on the coast and love it, where it's much whiter. Yes, we know. Surrey's now Little India, and no explanation of why that's a bad thing. And full of gangs. Sure. He comments under the video explaining that it is the same crime rate as Vancouver and much less than adjacent Langley. So 58 likes for that one. Where in northern BC must be nice. I live in Prince Rupert, where we're all white and happy. Yes, it's worse now. The worst of India and Punjab are in Surrey now. The worst. Does he mean the worst people or the worst aspects? Because I would bet that this person has never been to India. So that's just typical immigrant hate and bigotry. Just saying the fact that they're here and I have to see them means that they are just the worst. Yeah, we know. I just moved back to Aldergrove from Surrey last month after living here there 10 years. It is a complete shit show there. Aldergrove at least still feels like a small white town. The white is assumed. Yeah. What do you mean by a complete shit show? This has not been explained. Is it a particular point you're talking about here? Is it the infrastructure? Is it the schools? Is it all the construction impeding your traffic flow? Or is it the man with turban and the hordes of Indians on both sides of the street? They are coming there as well. The hordes of Indians on both sides of the street. They're coming for Aldergrove too. Ooh, we're being replaced. Kimberly. No, don't say it. On here, Surrey will come there saying it's native land and turn it into India. Wow, that is a nesting doll of bigotry there. Surrey, as in the hordes of man with turban, will come there saying it's native land and turn into India. Is this person legit confusing indigenous people with Indians? Or are they just like getting their bigotry channels crossed? It doesn't even make sense. This is a perpetual frustration for me because if you're smart and you watch conservative commentary and progressive commentary, or even just liberal commentary, it's pretty obvious that the conservative commentary is garbage. Like incoherent, mutually self-contradictory. And you may disagree with the positions of people, centrist liberals and progressives on the left, but they're coherent. They can articulate generally, at least the thought leaders, what their positions are and why they have those positions and what the drawbacks of those positions are and why they think that the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. And it's just, you have to be dumb to listen to a conservative and not hear how dumb they are. And be just intimidated when you hear a smart person talking smarter policy and say, that scares me, I don't understand it, I'm going to agree with the dumb person who sounds like me. And they're saying, Surrey will come there saying it's native land, turn it into India. What the does that even mean? We're not even at the part that I'm looking at this for. Just never read the comments is the point. I should do it another segment, just never read the comments. Surrey is the West Coast equivalent of Brampton, whatever the fuck that means. Monolithic Punjabi communities that engage in vote blocking to ensure Punjabi rights in parliament. Right, because why should people have representation in government? Sure. The Sikhs have figured out how to game democracy to benefit themselves. I think we call that engaging in democracy, and to the detriment of Canadians, i.e. white people. Ajit Saijan, a career police officer and military serviceman who has spent his life upholding the laws and aims of Canada, takes orders from the World Sikh Organization and putting Afghan Sikhs in front of Canadians. Boy, that sounds like something that never happened. Boy, that sounds like something somebody just made up. Yes, so engaging in democracy is a monolithic Punjabi community engaging in vote blocking to ensure Punjabi rights in parliament, and Sikhs have figured out how to gain democracy. Okay. Sure. Brampton, subcontinent, politics, crime, corruption, traffic, extortion, and white flight. White flight, yes. So people moved to where other people like them were, and the people who were bigots and couldn't deal with that fled. Understood. I'm going to assume that on its face. Shifting political correctness will not solve our legitimate problems. Sometimes the truth is inconvenient, but how can we solve legitimate issues if we don't talk honestly about them? Right. Nobody's talking about it. Obviously. Can you see nobody talking about it? There's a serious crime problem in the Indian community with gangs, etc. My Indian friends are first to point this out. I mean, okay, but there are gangs where there's a lot of Indian people, and there are gangs. It makes sense that they would be predominantly Indian, if that's even true. And like this is not something that's unique to this. Like anywhere there's enclaves of certain ethnicities and immigrants. Like one of the ways they will form identity and seek ways to feel like they belong when they're excluded from monoculture by these people is yes, and they'll form gangs. But again, he's commenting this under a video pointing out that Surrey does not have an unusually high amount of crime and is actually less than adjacent Langley. So maybe watch the video you're commenting under, or maybe try to deal with your cognitive dissonance. Our Jesus is scary man. No context, no content, no point, no emphasis, or evidence. Okay, why do you call other communities that elect their own other? Yeah, see? There you go. Good for you. Because they don't shit on the street. Well, I gotta tell you, being around Vancouver a lot, I see a lot of people of all kinds of ethnicities leaving shit in the street. That's pretty racist. Oh, this ought to be good. Oh boy, this person has a lot to say. Oh god, and that just, yeah, okay. I'm Christian from Indian, let me tell you that most of India doesn't live like these folks do, at least the ones who have migrated from big cities that I have come here to assimilate into culture, complete my master's, and probably find a job. Those skills are hard to find in that way now that I am talking about. This is funny because this person thinks they can reason with them, and they won't just see them as a man with turban. I'm getting a call, but I don't recognize it. Don't call me. I'm under 50 years old. I don't want to talk on the phone. Give me your number in case I have to text you. Oh, I'll just call you. Anyway, this guy. This is funny because this person thinks that I'm one of the good ones. Hey, racist people, I'm on your side. I'm one of the good ones. They don't give a shit. They're racist, and they see you as part of the hordes on the street. So On both sides of the street, importantly. The folks who find Brent, sir, are the ones who come mostly from Punjab and oh, right. So, okay. Let me tell you, the issue is Punjab is mostly farmland, and most of these folks haven't even seen a major city in India. So when you suddenly pick someone from there and have them land in Canada, it's a culture that they don't understand, which is why they come to the city and not to the farmland places in Canada. It's a culture that they don't understand, so they force themselves to mix only amongst themselves, Punjabi, and also folks that don't speak the official language, which is Hindi or English. They find mostly just stick with their own, which is Punjabi, so they find it hard to get along with the rest of the states. Now the current government has let so many of them come into Canada that it's hard for them to manage any of these excesses in immigration. I will refer you back to the person who was saying that it is difficult for people to bring people in, and refer back to no graph. I just want a graph. I like graphs. 2014. Yeah, it's too late. I don't want an AI fucking over you. No, okay, I don't believe that. See, I just want a graph. I just want a graph. Can you do a graph? Okay, so I mean, they've been in power since like here, right? So I don't know why there was a spike. It's post-COVID, but that's not the point. Honestly, that one has to deal with in a new land is understandable because this is their culture when it falls here. I honestly hope that Pierre puts an end to this so unskilled immigration coming from Punjab. So I'm an Indian racist who's racist against other kinds of Indian people. And please, white bigots, please understand, I'm one of the good ones. I'm one of the ones from a different region, not from the region that I'm bigoted against myself. Can we both be bigoted against the Punjabis and not from wherever the fuck I'm from, please? No, you're part of the hordes on both sides of the street, no matter what you say. You can write the longest YouTube comment you want, and they're gonna say, oh, you're a horde, right? Yeah, Pierre's gonna save you. Yes, he's certainly not one who's in league with the people scapegoating immigrants and pushing all kinds of right-wing conspiracy theories. And here's one interesting fact, especially for Canadians who think all of these folks are Indian, ask any of them. Again, I wouldn't presume that. I generally use the term South Asian as a broad identifier for people from that region because I can't tell between Indians and Bangladeshis and wherever the fuck else there are. Like I can't tell the difference between, anyway, not the point. A source, doesn't matter. Hello, which part of India are you from? I read Christians are targeted in a state called Manipur, killing many and burning churches by government-backed mobs. I hope your family is saved back. I hope your family is saved back. I'm from Mumbai, but originally my family is from... Yeah, okay. Don't believe what the media tells you about where I'm from. I'm one of the good ones. I lived for 30 years and I can tell you there's no better place for minorities than India. Yeah. How about you asked the Muslims about that? There's no better place for minorities than India. Well, if that were true, it would mean that Canada is worse for minorities than India. And you're certainly on the side of people who are creating that reality here. So kudos. Have some prayers, which accomplished mean nothing. Expel the invaders. Invaders is his fucking name. Oh my god. Expel the invaders. Because, oh, shit on the street. Yes, the shit on the street guy. Only Indians and only in Surrey are people shitting on the street. That's right. Brain functional? No. Trust me, there's enough democracy left that if minorities were treated any different, people would be out on the streets fighting for it. India's a lot safer. Don't believe the mainstream media, but thanks for your prayers. Again, this is coming from the I'm one of the good ones person, so I won't take their view of how minorities are treated and who counts as people in minority groups from that person. Hindi is not the official language of India. Check your facts first. Have you tried speaking Hindi in Tamil Nadu? Okay, this is getting into some really inside baseball, inter-Indian political gripes and ethnic strife, so it's not interesting to me. Grew up in US, moved to Surrey when I was 26. I've been living here since then because of cheap, but I hate living here. Again, can we have some class consciousness, please, about why you can't afford to live somewhere nice? Yeah, India sucks. I mean, Surrey sucks, we know this. Right, but there's more there. Like Pooner? Strawbender Hill. Sure. I mean, graphic crime, quote unquote diversity. What is quote unquote diversity? No diversity, it's just India. All right. So, Surrey. Here we go. 2021. Well, yep. There are more South Asians than Europeans in India, or in Surrey. East Asian. So, Asians. Okay. Southeast Asian, African. Right. So, yeah, in 20 years, it's gone from being 60% white to 30% white. Yeah, and it's because there's a much higher rate of South Asian people coming into the city. So, yes, because there are 37% Indian people, South Asian people, what that means is that there's no diversity, it's just India. May as well let them annex it and just have it, right? Because it's just Indian people there. The problem is that if you're a bigoted racist and you see, oh man, so much content, and you see some Indian people, South Asian people, then what you see are hordes of Indians on both sides of the street. 37% means just Indian. Wow. Maybe this is the point to just quickly mention. In a previous stream, I said that, pointed out my favorite joke, local joke, was what's the fastest way from India to China? And the Alex Fraser Bridge. Ha. And I stand by that because it's funny and I'm not a racist. And because I grew up in Richmond and I lived in Surrey for a long time. And I mean that, I say that joke almost like with love. And I don't say it as though that's a problem. It's funny because of the inversion of expectations. You say, what's the fastest way from India to China? People are like, well, what's the fastest way from actual India to actual China? And then the reversion in the comedy is like, oh no, I mean something else than what I made you think in the setup of the joke. And if you're not racist, it's funny because it's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of Indian people in Surrey and a lot of Chinese people in Richmond. And you can find that funny without thinking it's a problem that there's a lot of Indian people in Surrey and a lot of Asian or Chinese people in Richmond. It's just that switch that's funny. But there's so much bigotry here. And I also find it interesting that this person who runs this channel has never come in here and been like, hey guys, maybe be a little less bigoted. Anyway, I don't know what this means, but I'm betting it's incredibly racist. And we still haven't gotten to the thing that I saw in the comments that made me have to do this. Surrey used to be a very nice neighborhood. However, after 20 plus years, it became dilapidated, meaning there were a lot more hordes of Indians. Unpleasant, and I can say dangerous now because I'm afraid of people who don't look like me. And when I'm afraid, I immediately assume I'm in danger. And I can only ascribe that to these brown faces being dangerous. Sorry, but it was just neglected, like the people there do not care about anything. This is also like, again, at the bottom of a video talking about how frustrating it is, how much growth there is, and how much new building is going on. Like, fastest growing municipality doesn't just mean population, it means building and growth and new schools and community centers and infrastructure, and it became dilapidated. It's Detroit because so many people are coming here and we're having trouble keeping up with facilities and amenities to accommodate them. Just complete unreality. Do you think any of the neighborhoods are better than others in Surrey? Halifax topped the list. Go live there and thank me later. Burlington, Ontario, you will feel nostalgic. Wally is the most classy. Like, I have so much hog content. Oh my god. I certainly have an impression of Wally as being like little East Hastings, but it has nothing to do with race. It's just, she used to drive a truck around changing the garbages in the city of Surrey Park, so I kind of know what the fuck I'm talking about. And yeah, Wally was always the sketchiest place, and nothing to do with race, because it was the poorest. Again, can we please have a little class consciousness here? Like, it comes down to your orientation. Like, if Wally is a bad area, do you want to somehow disappear all the people who are a problem there? Or do you want to do something to help all the people there so they're not a problem anymore to themselves or anybody else? It's the bottom of a drain of economic instability and impoverishment. It's where you wind up the further you fall. It's not a fucking race thing. God, Surrey isn't a neighborhood halfway. It's the second largest city. It's the biggest city in the province. I've lived in 4 provinces and along of other cities. Apparently there's no edit function. I would add the school system to your list. He did mention the school system. Did you not watch the video? It's a joke how overcrowded they are and how little support kids get. And I bet you wouldn't support raising taxes to better fund schools. Moved to Surrey 20 years ago after living 20 years in Abbotsford, and I liked the change at first because it was much whiter. At the time, the area I moved to was quiet with little crime and reasonable house prices. However, now the area is getting way overpopulated, and with most people from other countries who can barely speak English, just have to, speaking of people who can barely speak English, and often act rude and don't seem to have much respect for any of the rules. Traffic is a nightmare all over the city, and like you mentioned, good luck if you need to go to the hospital. Do not move to Surrey if you care about your sanity and health. Lol. I mean, this is a common thing I've talked about before. Sorry, I'm tripped out by somebody being out there. I'm not saying anything bad, but I don't want to be hurt because I'm self-conscious. Good thing I've committed to editing this. Have I really been going for 2 hours and 15 minutes? Why does it take 2 hours for me to do a 15-minute video? There we go. Okay, good. The very next comment is the one I want to get to and the one I'll stop on because this is bad for my soul. Alright, to get over. Okay, right. It's something I've talked about the last time. It's just a reality that it takes a few generations for somebody to be fully ingratiated into the local culture. It's a normal thing. That's how immigration works. I think about cloistered immigrant communities as cultural halfway houses. They're like Canadian factories, or factories that make Canadians we recognize and identify with, despite ethnic background. So yeah, you've got the first generation who come, and the other ones who want to be here and do the work to ingratiate themselves and work hard to get, start a business or do what they have to do. And then they bring their parents they care about, and the parents are like, it was never their thing to come here, but they're like, well, whatever, my kids are supporting me and they want to bring me here, so I guess I'll come. And they're often kind of belligerent about, well, I'm not going to learn new language. I don't even want to be here. But then the main adults that came here, they have children. And that second generation is often one foot in each world. They learn English and ESL, but they still speak their native language at home. But they often learn their deals. They learn how to code switch and learn how to act like a more local Canadian that someone would expect out in the world, but still act like their family would expect at home. They live in both worlds. And then by the time they leave and the grandparents are dead and the parents are old, but they're the ones that wanted to be in the first place, when they have kids, they're just Canadians. So it takes a few generations, but a few generations later, out spits a fully formed local Canadian who has the same mentality and manners, Jesus Christ, as me or any other person. And they're just Canadians of a different skin tone from me. And that's all there is. And so you have to think about, these concentrations of certain ethnicities, of immigrants, as if you're not racist, factories that make the kind of people you want in your country. And there's some machinery in there that might be unpalatable to you at some times, depending on the degree to which you're a racist and bigot, but that just bothers me so much that people can't see that and can't be understanding and can't appreciate the concept of multiculturalism, that it's okay for people to be in a place and have their own kind of thing going on, and that doesn't mean that something is taken away from you, but whatever. So watching this last night, I made the mistake of scrolling down to the comments, and I saw one that caught my eye, and it stuck in my craw. I don't know what that expression means, but feels appropriate. And when I saw that, I made the mistake of looking at the other comments. So let's have a look. Sarger deep, balls deep, and under jeep. Welcome to Canada. 48 likes, 4 replies. Now, I don't do this sort of thing. I reported this as hate speech. I've never done that before. This one really bothered me, though. I don't know why. It's just the casual, deep-seated racism that I know, having lived in Surrey for a long time and having grown up in Richmond. While I'm not of this persuasion myself, I'm familiar with it. I've seen it. I've heard it. I've heard the kinds of things white people only say around other white people, if you know what I mean, when they think they're in company of similar persuasion. And I hate this. Yes, people have different names, and they might sound weird to you. And this isn't even about that. This is just, I'm powerless. I'm insecure. I'm a small person, and the only way I can feel anything is to lash out at people who have less power than me. That is also just so entrenched in the conservative mentality. And I don't know, I didn't read everything else as closely last night, and there are other things that are maybe worse that I've read here. But I think racist jokes can be funny without being racist. Maybe I'm wrong. And there are certain jokes, certain kinds of humor that I would only employ when I'm confident I'm around people who know that I'm not racist and I don't mean it that way. Like the joke bridge, right? Or the bridge joke. But this bothers me because it's the kind of casual racism and dismissive bigotry that I have heard from people who think I'm on their side and I'm not. And I know what's behind that. I know what the person who wrote that feels about the hordes of brown faces on both sides of the street, and I hate it. And I don't want to fucking drone strike that guy. I mean, I'm trying to bring everything full circle, I guess, but to some degree, that's what I'd like to do here. That's the impact I'd like to have here. I see that, and when I see them as a faceless, racist horde, I get angry, and I want to lash back and be snarky and shit on them and report their comment or whatever. But when I have that moment of empathy where I try to understand instead of hate, I can feel the pain and insecurity in that comment. I wish I'd heard them say that in real life and have the opportunity to pull inside and be like, hey buddy, you want to talk about something? You need to talk? There's something I can clear up for you, and have the opportunity to talk to them and explain some things to them and hear out their grievances and maybe explain why it's unjustified or why their anger is pointing in the wrong direction, which is what I want to do here. Not that anyone's ever going to watch, but that just really got to me because there are people making bad arguments and there are people who are just hateful, and that's just hateful. It might seem minor, but I know that that's just what this person posted on YouTube, and that gives me some idea of what kinds of things they say when they think they're in safe spaces, and some idea of the seething, contemptuous, bigoted rage underneath. You don't say shit like that in a public forum if it's not just the tip of some very dark, ugly iceberg. That being said, I think it was Russell Peters who did a joke about how funny South Asian names can sound to a native English speaker's ear, and I remember very fondly his joke about just being on the street and some guy walking up and be like, hey man, you suck deep.
Yo man, you suck deep?
And him being like, well, sometimes if I have to.
Well, sometimes if I have to, I don't really like it though.
And it was funny. And again, I think that's okay because, well, I mean, it was a South Asian person making the joke, but also because for me, finding that joke funny, it's not about being racist. It's about the subversion of expectation.
And obviously it's not pronounced suck deep in my culture, you know what I mean?
I mean, yes, I think souk deep or something is probably more how it's said, but just the way, an acknowledgement that is something that South Asian people have to deal with, and an acknowledgement that, yeah, their names can strike our Western ears funny sometimes, but it can just be humor sometimes. It doesn't have to be virulent racism like this. I think that's part of it, is it's one thing to find it be amusing in a not hateful way, the way foreign names sound to a Western ear sometimes, but it's something else to start manipulating them into things that are much worse. That's an attack. I mean, it's not putting somebody in an oven or anything, but it's in that direction to a small degree. Laughing that, hey, isn't it funny that souk deep kind of sounds like suck deep is one thing, but when you start saying, just throwing out balls deep and under deep, there's something a lot darker going on. That's all I'm saying. Let's just torture ourselves with the replies to this. Totally, and they are super cheap. Rot on the economy and don't conform to Canada or learn English. Yeah, I hate that shit too. And you know what? That's not an Indian thing. That's a barter thing. That's a poverty thing, to be honest. Why is there a Costco? That could be interesting. Anyway, yeah, that is a culture clash. It's not something to be hateful about. And what the fuck is that supposed to mean? Like, I get why this person thinks they're making a funny, but that's not a joke. That's a statement of fact said in a hateful context with an unfair exaggeration. Again, they've been coming in for a long time, and you know who wasn't in power all this time? Yeah, not true. You know how they've been gradually becoming a higher proportion of the Surrey population for 20 years? You notice how it's only in these last two that it was higher, and that for a lot of that time it was Harper. But, I mean, you know, it was a white guy named Trudeau who let them in. Like, I get how he thinks he's being funny, but that's not a joke. And I don't mean it's like not funny joke. I mean, like, there's no construction of a joke there. He's just saying white and Trudeau and expecting people to be bigoted with him, I guess. Oh yeah. And we have another, I'm one of the good ones, guys. Yeah, enjoy. I got news for you though. They're never gonna think you're not just one of the hordes. Sorry. Okay, I'm done with